Good morning, everyone. We'll just wait a few minutes until 25 past to see who else joins us, and then we will start. Alrighty, let's get started then, since it is 25 past and there are only 3 students in the class. So thanks for joining, everyone. Before we get started with lecture 24, I just want to show you something with Excel that I was not sure how to do previously. So some students may have asked me, how do I change the numbering on the y-axis? And you can see here, I've brought this up. It says format axis, but actually I'm going to show you how to get there first. So let's say, for example, you've created your chart or your graph, etc. And then you're going to click here into chart area. So you'll click here and you'll come down here where it says format axis and you'll click into that. Then when you come into that, it's going to give you options over here. And here you see where it says bounds, minimum and maximum. So the maximum is what you will change if you want it to go up higher to another amount. So of course I changed mine to 100. It was previously 60. So I want to show you. So this is what it would look like if it was 60. Then I'll just press enter. And then you can see what the chart looks like if it is 60. And then I'll change the maximum to 100. And then we'll see what it looks like. So you can see there is a difference when we, about how the chart looks when we change the bounds, the minimum, and more specifically the maximum when it comes to the y-axis. Any questions? No questions, guys? Are you here? Are you paying attention? So it looks like it's going to be a short lecture today for some reason. Alrighty. So let's get started with lecture 24. So we are continuing with math literacy today. Today is the last section, or the last lecture, should I say, on math literacy. So does anyone have any questions from the previous lecture, questions about Excel? Have you tried creating any graphs or tables? Any questions? That's okay, Dee. Thanks for responding. I get upset when I see 3 students in my online class. It really upsets me, but that's fine. Alrighty, so we are on pages 364 to 372 of Anderson. Okay, that's in the textbook. So before I tell you what a budget is, who can try to tell me in their own words what is a budget? Anyone wants to guess? Okay, good, Dee, that's a good guess. How much you get? How much you get after what exactly? Let's try to be a little bit more specific. Okay, good, good. So when we talk about budgeting, good, Mtukosizi, excellent. Yes, so yes, it is, you can talk about a budget being a financial plan, okay, about spending money and looking at your incomes, okay? And it's very important in life in general that we do budget. I don't budget, I'll be very honest. It's not a skill that we're taught at a high school level or even any kind of financial literacy. But it is very useful to manage your finances. Okay. Before I continue, how many of you budget? Even if you do it like at a college level where you're saying, okay, I have 100 Rand, 20 Rand is going to go for lunch. Yeah. Okay, cool. I remember that when I was a student earning no money and I was still getting money from my parents, I often used to budget because studying is expensive, as you know, in South Africa. So my mom used to give me 100 Rand. I would say, okay, 20 Rand would be for my coffee. And then I would use the rest for whatever purposes that I needed to, 50 Rand for airtime or whatever. Okay, so it is useful to budget in this way so that we know how we're going to spend our money. So a budget is used to help people plan their finances and use their money and can be set up for either individuals or businesses. A budget is an estimate of the balance between the amount of income earned and the expected expenses for a particular period of time, usually a month. So predicting the amount of money you will receive and spend in the month, you can see if you are able to afford the items you would like to buy and perhaps reach specific goals in a business context. It can be determined whether a business will be profitable. While budgets can be drawn up manually, it makes more sense these days to rely on software such as Microsoft Excel, as well as other applications that are now available for electronic devices. So maybe when we're dealing with like smaller amounts of money, it's fine to use our phones or a piece of paper, etc., to do a budget. But when we're dealing with vast amounts of money with many expenses and many different various incomes, it's useful for us to use budgeting software or Microsoft Excel, which is a great tool to use. Okay, I don't think that people use Microsoft Excel enough because maybe they're just not sure about how to use it, but it's such a useful tool when it comes to budgeting. Questions? Righty, so these programs and applications are convenient because they make it easier to make calculations and record data. So below is an example of a personal budget for the month of January. The budget lists all the expected income and the amounts of money dedicated to savings. It also lists the expected expenses for the month. It can be seen the amount of income earned will cover the expected expenses for the month, and there will also be enough money to cover the intended savings. Okay, so here we go. We can see the income, okay, that a person gets. And then we see the savings as well, emergency fund, transfer to savings, retirements, investments, education, and other. So see income and the savings, and then we get the total. Any questions? And then it's also, I put it on two separate PPTs because it was too difficult to put onto one. We would also need to look at our expenses, okay? So we need to look at our expenses and to see how much we are spending every month. So for example, as a student, you can have airtime, taxi fare, etc., etc. This is obviously for a home, person who's funding a home as well. So we can see home loan, home rental, electricity, petrol, phone, internet, furnishings, maintenance, and other transportation, car payments, auto insurance, fuel, and public transport as well. And you would tally these up to get your totals for the budgets. Questions? So personal budgeting can be quite flexible as money can be moved around and can be cut quite easily. However, this is not the case with business budgeting. So how would you guys assume business budgeting is different from personal budgeting? Remember, it's good to try to guess, to make mistakes. How is it different? Okay, so business budgeting has to take many factors into consideration. For example, paying suppliers and staff, as well as other non-negotiable expenses, which cannot simply be moved to another month. Okay, so we know that during the pandemic, many restaurants closed down because they were not getting enough income to pay the expenses, right? And salaries and wages is one of the most important things. Paying your suppliers, paying your rent, you have to pay these kind of expenses. There's like no way around it, okay? So those are something that are fixed variables, okay? And you can't really change them. So business budgeting therefore considers the long term, with financial planning is usually done annually, let's say, instead of monthly, okay? So a company will sit down and then they will do their financial planning for the year, and they will say, okay, we have this amount of money to put towards tea and coffee, this amount of money that's going to be to pay our staff, okay, this amount of money for to pay our what do you call it, the people we owe money, for example, okay? So many of the principles of personal and business budgeting are the same, as ultimately the purpose of any budgeting system is to determine whether one can afford the intended expenses based on the amount of money that is coming in and that can be used. So also with businesses, they focus on some kind of forecast. Okay, so they do some kind of forecasting or predictions where they say, okay, in the month of January, we're going to receive 1 million. Okay, and then from that 1 million, this is what we're going to pay, and this is what we're left over, and then taxes, etc., etc. Questions? Okay, so here we see an example of a personal budget. Okay, we see the registration, daily living, entertainment, health. Okay, so these are things that we would do. Okay, maybe every month. It's a good idea to look at our expenses and to see how much money we have coming in and how much money goes out. Why do you think personal budgeting is important? Good, exactly. So we need to use money efficiently and effectively, okay? In South Africa, particularly, there's a huge problem with credit, unfortunately, all right? So, and maybe this is not even because people want to take credit, but because they have to, because salaries are so low. So we need to learn to live with the money that we do get. It is difficult, yes, but we should create budgets so that we can see how we're going to spend our money and how much money we are receiving. Good, D, great, Mtukozizi, fantastic. Okay, so many people are leaving behind their pens and paper and are using electronic devices on smartphones and tablets to do their budgeting. There are a range of applications available, such as Excel for personal and business budgeting. People can choose an app that best suits their needs and provides them with a user interface that is both interactive and accessible. Okay, so we need to find an app or an interface that's good and works for us, because sometimes we would find an app and it doesn't really suit us. We don't really like it. We don't know how to use it. Okay. Excel is one of the easiest ones. So the following lists some details of some of the benefits of using an online app for budgeting purposes. Formulas are pre-programmed in the apps, which means they do not have to create links and new formulas to create totals and balances. Data can be accessed through multiple devices at any time, which enables sharing of budgets and allows for real-time updates. Budgets can be recorded at point of sale or any other convenient times, which simplifies the budgeting process and implementation and makes it easier to track of payments. So guys, that's one of the, excuse me, the important ones, especially for someone like me who's self-employed, all right? Because now every time I make a payment and then I don't even know, now I must go and sit and record the payment and say, this is what it was for. It's time consuming. But with these kind of software applications, maybe you just scan the receipts and then it automatically uploads to where you want it to upload and makes it easier to track. So Templates cue you to include costs or income sources that you have not yet considered, which makes your budgeting more sophisticated and aligned to your real life income and expenditure patterns. According to Blood, there are a number of very good budgeting apps available for various devices, such as Android or Mac OS. So, has anyone come across any budgeting app before we go into the ones that we see here? Also, I just want to know, at high school level, because it's been a while since I was at high school, do they teach you about budgeting at all? Oh, they do. Fantastic. That's great. That's great. Cool. So we first have the You Need a Budget is a Mac and Windows compatible app that not only offers you budgeting templates, but also offers or teaches you good budgeting practices. Okay, so we do need to learn how to be good with money and how to use money. We basically all need to be like accountants so we can track our money. Okay, you can use this app on your smartphone, but it can also automatically sync its data to a desktop. Budget Pulse is a simple, uncomplicated, and easy to use app. It allows you to manage financial accounts and track saving goals and then communicate these goals with chosen interested parties. So that's great as well. You can share your data. For example, if you have a business, you can share the data with your business partners, for example. Pocketsmith is a personal financial planning app that makes use of a calendar to help you make budgeting forecasts. It also includes features offered by other apps such as financial accounts and management and saving goals. Calendar Budget is a free app that uses a calendar as its interface. It shows you how your income and expenses will be affected in the future. However, it does not automatically download transactions. Okay, so there are various different apps that you could use to calculate your budgets. Questions, comments? Okay, let's continue. Okay. Sorry, guys, I'm not over my COVID spell, as you can hear. So I still have a cough. It's getting quite annoying, actually. Okay, so then we get to Budget by Snowman Creative Solutions LLC, and it offers a variety of budgeting apps that are compatible with both Mac and Windows operating systems. They also have a smartphone app available that syncs to the desktop version. Okay, so this is just more information about various apps. You can try them if you want to learn how to budget. Remember, guys, even though you may think that it's futile to download and use these apps, it's not actually. It's going to help you become a better spender, and you'll know more about how you are spending money. Okay, so it's very useful to incorporate these kinds of things. Actually, I'm going to do it because I need to see how I'm spending. Oh, Dee, you also got COVID. I'm so sorry to hear that. How are you feeling? Are you okay? It wasn't that bad for me. Just the first 2 days, but I've got this cough that doesn't want to go away, especially in the mornings. So it's really annoying me. It's more the cough than anything else, but I have been taking my medicine. Oh, your mom got it too. Is she okay? So this Omicron one isn't that bad, actually. Luckily for us. And also, if we have this one, we'll have antibodies. She's not okay? Dee? Oh no, I really, really hope and pray for your mom that she gets better. Okay, we'll be thinking about your mom. It's a horrible thing for our parents to get COVID. Actually, that's why I don't even stay with my parents, because it's such a, yeah, I think I'll just blame myself if anything had to happen. So yes, we'll pray for your mom and we hope she gets better soon. Thank you, Dee. Okay, cool. So yes, that's the budgeting software apps. So when we talk about money, investing money, or paying money off, right? There's something called simple interest. Okay. So, what, in your own opinion, in your own words, what do you think simple interest is? Anyone? You can just guess, guys. Good, Dee. Good guess. So let's get into it. So when you are looking to purchase something that is very expensive, such as a car or house, or you would like to obtain capital to start a business, you are most likely going to have to borrow money. Okay, yes. So now borrowing costs money, because remember, whoever is lending you money, they could have taken that money and put it into any kind of account with the bank or other financial institutions, and it would be earning interest over time. So now they are charging you for lending you that money. Okay. So the money you pay to borrow money from a bank or another type of financial institution is called interest. Paying interest on a loan means you are basically paying for not having to repay the full amount of money loaned upfront. Yes, because it takes, depending on the time period, okay, you're going to pay that money off over a long time. And therefore, because it's costing the bank to lend you that money, or whichever person, if it's a large amount, they're going to charge you interest. So the bank also pays you interest on the money you keep in the accounts with them, because in turn, you can borrow your money to lend to others. Okay, so that's why they charge you interest, by the way, if you didn't know, because they could have taken that same money and placed it into stocks, for example, in the stock market, and that money could be earning a ton of money in the stock market. But they loan it to you. They say, here, you can have this money for whatever purpose you need it. And because we are giving it to you, instead of investing it in the stock market or other places where we can invest money, you need to pay us interest for it. Questions? So, understanding the value of interest and how one calculates interest is important, because it will allow you to manage your finances in a responsible manner and prevent you from accumulating unnecessary debt. So why do you guys think debt is bad? In South Africa, we have a huge problem with debt, that I know for sure. Anyone? Why is debt a bad thing? But not all debt is bad. I would like to remind you that. Not all debt is bad. Yeah, because guys, we're losing money essentially, right? We have to pay this money off over a long period of time plus interest. And it's not a healthy way of managing our finances, especially if we have lots of different debts. In South Africa, they really, really kill us with this kind of thing, especially when we take out credit. Okay, you'll notice if you ever have, or if your mom ever has, and you should look at, your mom or dad ever has like a credit, a Jet account, I think it's linked. So Jet and Edgar's is linked. So if they have this kind of account, you'll see the interest charges, and it's crazy on some of the things they add to your statements. Even me with Vodacom, some of the things that they add, and it changes every month. So in South Africa, they really do us a disservice. We don't have any consumer rights, very little. Okay, so we must make sure that we get into a good kind of debt. What could be a good kind of debt, guys? And I'm specifically want to tell you what is a good kind of debt, so you know that there are ways that we can get into a good kind of debt that is not bad. So guys, a good kind of debt, for example, what investors do, okay, they take out loans on these houses. You'll see like there's lots of complexes all over Sandton, Sunning Hill, everywhere else, Mondio, and they take out loans with the bank, right? And then they get people to live in these houses, and they are paying off their bond, essentially, right? So they take out a loan, but then they get someone else to live in that house, and they pay off that loan for them. Okay, so that's a kind of good kind of debt that you have because it's getting paid off by someone else. And essentially, you are turning that into an asset with not even using your own money, essentially. Okay, so we must think about things like that when it comes to investing or becoming an investor in the property market. It's really helpful for us to make more money or become wealthier, or have some kind of assets or assets. Okay, so when investing your money and making interest work in your favor, you can increase your money and make it work for you. Interest is usually quoted as a rate and is expressed as a percentage of the total amount of money borrowed. So we call the original amount of money borrowed the principal. Okay, so that's the principal, 10,000 Rand. Interest rates are usually calculated per year, which is often expressed as a per annum or PA amount. So that's per annum, PA. Okay, whenever you see that, it means per annum. So for example, let's say you take out a 3,000 Rand loan from a bank with the interest of 10% per annum. The principal would then be 3,000, and the total amount that will have to be paid back to the bank after 1 year can be calculated as follows. 3,000 times 10% equals 3,000 times 10%, and that will give you 300. I'm not sure why I wrote 101, but yes, so 3,000, we can do a simple calculation on our computer. It's going to give us, on our calculator, it's going to give us 300. So this means that after 1 year of borrowing the money, the borrower, person who borrowed the money, will have to pay the bank lender 300 Rand in interest. The borrower, however, also has to pay back the principal. Therefore, in total, the borrower must pay the bank 3,000 plus 300, which is 3,300. Any questions so far? I just want to change something here quickly. So the total repayment of the loan would therefore be 3,300. Simple interest financial institutions use different types of interest calculations for the different products and services they offer. Yes, in South Africa, we pay interest on everything, okay? And you'll find sometimes you hear in the news, oh, they lowered the interest rates, okay? Especially, this is all have to do with economics, but sometimes the bank will lower the interest rates, they will put very low interest rates, and then people will purchase more, okay? So you'll see that sometimes, and they do this for different reasons to stimulate the economy in different ways. And also the banks charge you an interest rate, but their interest rate also comes from the SARB, okay, the South African Reserve Bank. So it's linked to what the SARB says, actually. So simple interest is when the same amount of interest is charged every year on the original principal as well as the accumulated amount of money. So, but whilst I was talking about banks, we also need to understand there's also private financial institutions and other places where you can take money out, and their interest rate might be different. Okay, questions? Can anyone think of any other lending institution besides a bank that you know of or that you've come across? Okay, you only know of banks. Okay. So you'll see sometimes, guys, especially like in areas like Rivonia, I've seen them in Rivonia actually, and some other places where they say something lending service, and then you go there and then they talk to you about money, and then they give you some money, and then there's an interest. Okay, and there's also these people that are called loan sharks. Have you guys heard of loan sharks? We often see it in the movies, especially in American movies, you know, like they give you money and then after a while you don't pay the money, then they come beat you up and take everything from your house. Okay. So yeah. So they do exist. And of course, we do need to be careful where we take money from and how we pay that money back. Okay. To go see this says he says new one. Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, I'm always like scared of these kind of people because I never know what they're capable of doing, to be honest. Guys, we're gonna go into the next meeting. So we have 2 minutes left here. Let me give you the link and you can go there and then I'll meet you there. Okay, so here's the link for the second meeting. So you can go there and I'll see you there. So is it only you, Mtukozizi? Let's wait and see who joins us before we continue. Wait a few minutes. We'll start at 5 past, guys. Let's just see who else joins us. I hope it's just not the three of us and more students coming. Let's continue. Okay. So simple interest financial institutions use different types of interest, as I said before. And simple interest is when the same amount of interest is charged every year on the original principal as opposed to the accumulated amount of money. So you'll see that they'll charge you the same amount on the initial amount that you took. So it's going to be like 10% of 3,000 until that amount is paid off. Okay. So, for example, if you take a loan at an interest rate of 10% for a 5-year period, you would calculate the amount of interest as follows. So 3,000 times 10% times 5 years, 300 times 5 equals 1,500. We can express this calculation as a formula as follows. So IPRT, this stands for interest, and it equals the principal times the rate of interest times 5. So we see that 3,000 is the principal, interest rate is 10%, and the time is 5 years. The amount of interest payable over the total borrowing time would therefore be 1,500. Of course, the principal also has to be paid back to the bank along with the interest. So the total repayment amount that the borrower would therefore have to repay to the bank would be 4,500. This means that after 5 years of borrowing money, the borrower will have to pay the bank 4,500. Questions? And I know that we also have load shedding now in South Africa. Maybe that's also a reason people are not here. So, compound interest. Who would like to guess what compound interest is? Okay, so let's get into it. So compound interest is the most commonly used type of interest. It is the type of interest calculation where money is invested in particular financial instruments and when repaying loans. So in this case, it's a little different because it's compounded. So the compound interest method calculates the interest rate on the accumulating amount of money borrowed. In other words, if a loan is being paid over a period of time, the interest rate per annum is calculated on the money, on the amount of money that is still owed, together with the interest owed for the year that has already passed. So compound interest is therefore calculated by working out the interest for the first period, which is usually a year, then adding this interest to the total and using the latter amount to calculate the interest for the next year. So this process is continued until the loan period is over. Okay, so it's different from simple interest. So here we have an example. If you take out a 3,000 Rand loan at an interest rate of 10% per annum for 5 years, you would calculate the amount of compound interest as follows. So 3,000 times 10% is 300 in the first year, that's 3,300. And then we take that amount, so they add the interest, okay? And then they do the interest calculation the next year with the amount added to the interest. So then it's 3,300 times 10%, and then you'll get your amount, and it goes and it continues in that way until the loan is paid off. Any questions about compound interest? So when you go to the bank, guys, now you know you need to ask them what kind of interest are you or is applicable to me if I take this loan, and is it compounded? You must always ask, is it compounded? So am I paying compound interest because you're actually paying more with compound interest, or are you paying simple interest? Questions? So the total amount of money the borrower would therefore have to pay the bank, having compounded the interest over 5 years, is 4,831. With compound interest, the amount of interest payable over a period of time increases quite significantly. This results in high payments, or in the case of investment, substantial growth in the initial amount of money invested. The above method is rather long when calculating compound interest. There is a formula that can be used to calculate compound interest quickly. So we'll not explain how it works, but you should be interested in how this formula was arrived at, and you can visit the following webpage. So here you can go to matsisfan.com, money interest. Let me copy this link if I can. I don't know if I can. Let's see, let's go to it. No, it's not. Okay, here we go. So here's the link in the chat. Okay, and you can visit it, have a look at it. And it's going to help you to understand how to calculate compound interest. Okay, but it's actually quite simple. You just calculate the initial amount at year 1 times 10%, and then for each following year, you do the same thing, but you're taking the loan at the end amount. Okay, so it's the principal plus the interest that you're calculating the new compounded interest amount. Any questions? So the formula is as follows: FV equals P times 1 plus Rn. N is number of years, so let's just explain it quickly. Okay, FV, future value, which is the total amount that will have to be paid, or the value of the investment. P is the principal, R is the annual interest rate, N is the number of periods or years. So to use this formula to calculate compound interest and total repayment due in our previous example, we will proceed as follows. FV equals P times 1 plus R plus N. VF, 3,000 times 1 plus 0 plus 1 to the value of 5, and 3,000 times 1.1 to the value of 5, 3,000 times 1,601,051. That's going to give us 4,831.53. Okay. So you can have a look in your textbook as well, how to calculate that. And it will help you when you are taking out a loan or you want to take out a loan, a student loan, etc., etc. Questions, comments? So most compound interest calculations would make use of the above method, seeing as loans and investments calculate interest on a monthly basis. It is useful to see the difference between calculating interest at a yearly or monthly intervals and to consider the implications that the different kinds of interest have on investments and loans over time. So, any questions you want to ask me about something about the assessment, the final assessment, anything about today's lecture, anything about Microsoft Excel, anything about line graphs or line charts, etc. We are almost at the end of the semester. We've got 2 weeks to go, guys. So next week lectures and the following week lectures, and then we're done. Questions, comments? Alrighty, so guys, is there anyone who wants to do the activity? Activity 10C on page 371. Guys, everybody is so quiet here. I feel like I'm talking to myself. Alrighty, so then I will see you guys next week on campus. Whoops. In next week's lectures, we're going to look at the different learning styles and study skills. And until then, you should consider why understanding and knowing your learning style is important, as well as why effective study skills are necessary. Remember, if you have any questions, you can send me an email and I will be more than willing to help. Although, please note that this month I am at WITS, it will be a little bit challenging for me, okay, to reply as soon as possible. So I will see you guys next week on campus. Hopefully I will be better. Good luck with your assessments. Thank you so much. Good luck with your assessments. I hope that you were happy or you understood your marks for the first assessment. And yeah, send me those emails and I'll be more than willing to help you with anything that you need. Okay. Thank you for coming to the online meeting. I really appreciate it. Bye, Busin. Bye, Mtukazizi. Bye, Sema. See you guys next week on campus. Bye. It's my pleasure. See you soon.